We're here.
And this is always my favorite part to see if we're live or not.
It is. This is my favorite part.
The awkward beginning.
The awkward beginning.
I love awkward beginnings.
We specialize. Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
Good evening.
It's Rob and Christina. And Rob, how was your weekend this weekend?
Oh, good. I didn't do much. It was nice.
You don't want to know everything we did today. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But
Yeah.
we did a Luther League. We did confirmation. We did homework. I think there was some Latin in there somewhere. So, and what are you doing next weekend? You have any plans?
No, I'm not doing much next weekend either.
It's on a need to know basis, and evidently no one needs
No,
to know.
I'm actually getting married.
Yay!
So-
Rob's getting married.
Yes, yeah. I'm supposed to be back in March, but
He
you
would have
know,
known a worldwide pandemic
pandemic.
was going to happen.
kind of threw a wrench in that one.
That's right. And on the
But-
topic of marriage, I want to give a shout out to my almost sister-in-law Sarah for giving me these beautiful earrings on my birthday, and then also we want to give a shout out to our uncle for delivering these. He, how would you describe it? He dared us to eat a cookie live, but in true Pierce fashion, we couldn't wait until the actual taping tonight, so we have already eaten the cookies.
We've already had cookies.
So sorry, David, that dare has gone unfulfilled. So, Rob, do you want to announce the topic for tonight?
Sure, sure. So today we're going to be talking about choosing the right facility, how to find the right facility for your loved ones, when is the time to put your loved one in a facility, when is the time to put choose for yourself to find a place to go
Yeah.
live, those big life transitions,
Yeah.
and how do we make the right choice for such a difficult time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think especially now during COVID, the discussions that I see you having with the clients and that we're having with the clients, there's a much more at stake because if
Yeah.
you can't care for your loved one and you put them in a facility, then you're wondering, how am I going to see them? Am I just going to see them through the window or on phone?
yeah, it makes a hard decision even harder, and it really comes down to what's going to be right for that person, and we're going to talk more about the different types of facilities and things like that. I think that's a good way to get into it, huh?
I do too.
Okay.
And so if you are on our Facebook page or on my personal Facebook page, there's, if you know me, I love a good PowerPoint. So there's always a PowerPoint that goes with our Facebook live feed. So if you're following along, we're on page 2. And I'm going to let Rob take it away.
So really, when we're talking about care facilities, really there's about 4 different types. You have your independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And really, some people do that transition where you go from independent to assisted to skilled, but that doesn't always happen with everybody. So the differences between them is independent living, you're still able to drive around. It's pretty much like an apartment.
Like I'll be able to go to one in about 8 years, right?
Right. Well, we're
I'm
gonna.
looking forward to that.
The independent livings have things, that cater towards the active person. The one thing that I like to make sure people understand is independent livings are not licensed by the state.
Okay.
So they're pretty much like apartments that provide services or activities, groups, things like that. So you need to be pretty independent for this time. Then you move to assisted living, and assisted livings, you are going to need a help with your activities of daily living, or ADLs. You know how we always like to abbreviate things so no one knows what we're talking
Alphabet
about.
soup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you need some kind of something that requires assistance for ADLs: cooking, taking your medications, showering, shaving, cleaning your house, things like that.
And I think the one thing we see is like a wide variety, especially in the Houston area, of assisted living facilities. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Because not all assisted living facilities are created the same.
No. And so the assisted living facilities are licensed by the state, and they have different type of licenses. There's the ones you most run into are small A, large A, and B. And they really get into the nitty gritty of how long does it take you to evacuate? Are there sprinklers or not? Things like that. So really, when you start looking for an assisted living facility, they're going to dig more into your history, like how much help do you need?
Yeah.
Can you take your meds on your own? Can you get up out of the bed on your own? Things like that. Where independent living, they're just like, do you have a check?
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
and then you have memory care, and really when we're looking at memory care, it's time is that time that you're exit seeking, that you have wandering behaviors.
That's right.
That you are maybe a little bit physically aggressive, or you're not sure where you're at for the good part of the day. And really, that's where you want a specialized team of people who can go in and help you get through the day, who have cognitive activities that keep you stimulated. Then this is really where we see most of our Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, things like that, with the neurocognitive diseases that are degenerative.
And so the one thing I've noticed that families, the first thing they do when they see something's wrong is they go out and they get a book that they may have found at the doctor's office, or they start searching online, and they're trying to just figure out of 150 places that are listed, how do I know which assisted living is the right one for my person, and how am I going to make this decision? And we haven't even really talked about how do you know when the time is, but maybe you've made that decision and you've got maybe 15 different assisted living facilities. How do you choose the right one?
Well, it's hard, and the right one today might not be the right one tomorrow. So really, you need to find one that is in your budget, within your level of care, has the activities or the amenities that you want, that someone that's in right now. You have friends in there and they like it. Word of mouth. Actually, I find.
What about Google reviews? Is
No,
that good?
no. I don't trust online reviews because you don't know the circumstances. But I do really like personal reviews. So if you know someone who's been in there, also find a care manager like myself who knows the area, who can help guide you through all these different choices, and who hopefully talks to you, gets a good sense of what's going on, and then finds a place for you. The last place that we wanted to discuss is skilled nursing.
Yes.
So skilled nursing is you need help from a nurse at least every day. And that usually I talk about, being bed bound or needing, injectable medications, so the medical side is a lot heavier than any of these others. And of course, they are licensed by the state a lot more than assisted living facilities are. And they go through, a more rigorous test than assisted living.
And so one of the things you talked about was having a care manager. And even before I had you on staff as a care manager, I worked with care managers primarily because I wanted to figure out for clients what was the best place for that person. Because when you go into the facilities, it's a little bit like a sales pitch.
Oh,
and that's okay. I mean, that they've got what they have to do to get people to come and stay with them. But I don't know that families understand that. It's a business transaction when you're going to place your loved one. So the person that is showing you around is not going to be the person that's providing care. Their job is to get you to sign up. So my concern is, number one, that the client, their family member, or whoever is being placed, we know the level of care that they need. And it may be their needs are met at one assisted living facility but not the other. But the other thing that I think is so critical is that you realize it is a commercial transaction.
Yeah. And there's some of them get so pushy, it's almost like a used car salesman.
Yes.
That is a very strong sales pitch. And having that care manager there with you is a nice buffer. They can say, whoa, hold on a second, we're not sure yet, or how about, we're going to come back, or, thank you for showing us around. And it's easier for them to say no because you have that stress of caregiving.
Right.
The care manager takes that off of you. So, with all these different facilities, they all come with kind of different costs and things that can pay for them.
Yeah.
I'm
just looking at the numbers, and even though I know I've known this for many, many years, I'm still like have a little sticker shock myself.
And these are the low side numbers. So really, when you're talking about getting assisted living, actually, let's look at independent living first. Independent living, your apartments with your amenities, we're talking about real estate. So in Houston, everything is like, how big is your place?
Right.
And this is the same thing with assisted living.
Location.
Independent living. It's location. It's like, do you have 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you come from a 3,500 square foot house and try to go into an independent
Oh my
living,
gosh.
how do you pare down everything? So usually what we see is
Throw it
people.
away.
Well, we see people start with 2
Yeah.
bedrooms, the study,
Yeah.
like the very large, very expensive,
Yeah.
and then slowly start whittling down.
Yeah.
So really, independent living, you're looking around 3,500.
Or you can whittle down now like I do and just throw stuff out and not tell your spouse.
But there might be extra costs that people have to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
The transportation might be there. There's always a community fee. So when we're talking about assisted living and independent living and memory care, there's all these hidden fees or extra fees that you need to be careful about. And with assisted living, you're about $4,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's that extra help, that extra care for your ADLs. Also, with assisted living, you need to be careful what they call levels of care.
Yeah.
And what that means is, so say if you need help taking your meds, that's another $500.
Yeah.
Oh, you have 10 medications
On
not
top of the
five?
$4,500.
Yeah.
they've
So
already
that's
quoted
another
you.
$1,000 on top of your $4,500.
And that may not be what the admissions person told you.
Right.
The admissions person may say it's $4,500, and you're like, oh, we can totally do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the assessment, and then they're what?
Oh yeah, they that's when they say, oh hey, your level of care is this, so now this is going to be this much. So really, we need to watch out for that. The community fees, and once again, the care managers are really good because they're going to know these fees. They're going to be able also, hopefully, to have a relationship with that assisted living facility where they can say, hey, what can we do about the community fee? Can we chop it up? Can you give us a free first or a free last? There's different things.
So
that
there's
we
some
can do.
negotiation. on
There's
this.
always wiggle room because it's still like an apartment complex.
And it's still a business transaction.
It's still a business transaction.
I think it's a little bit like going in to buy a car. You would never go into a car, and I say this also about funeral.
the other place you stayed?
Yeah. So you would never walk into a used or a new car lot. Obviously, we don't buy new cars at our house, and say, "Oh, I want to buy a car. I don't have a budget."
Mm-hmm.
So just be careful about that,
Yeah.
and keep your eye on the fee and the monthly amount. Crunch the numbers.
Yeah, and really look into it. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll give you this graph that says this is how much you're paying in all your bills now,
Yeah.
and this is how much you're going to pay here,
Yeah.
and that's how it's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
But you really have to do a really good comparison. And then with skilled nursing, I'd say your skilled nursing base, you're around, $5,000, $5,500 a month, and that's just bare bones. 3 hots and a cot.
Yeah.
If you start going to
That's
real
a little prison reference there for those of y'all that are not from Huntsville like we are.
You can take the boy out of Huntsville, not the Huntsville out of the boy.
But we've seen nursing homes in the Houston area up to like $15,000 a
Yeah,
month.
especially if you need some specialized care like trach care,
Yeah.
you're talking $15,000, $20,000 a month.
And the thing about trach care is that not every facility accepts trach care.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very, very, very limited.
So yeah, really with skilled nursing, your trach care is very limited facilities. Your secured facilities, there's not a lot. So really, it's not a big pool. Even though we're a very large city, it's not a big pool to choose from. So we talked about independent living. You have to be able to be alone to be independent living. But most places do have a requirement where you have to be 55 or 65.
Yeah.
Because they want that senior community. They don't want the college kids coming in,
Right.
getting the meals and trying to sit and be fit with everybody else.
I'm ready for this. I'm ready for independent living.
Hey, there's some
I'm
really
ready.
nice independent living. So yeah,
There's that one across the street from our office. I could go work as many hours as I want and go back and get my little exercise class and my dinner.
yeah.
Pretty exciting.
If I go to independent living, I want a pool at my independent living.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So with assisted living, we talked about you must have assistance with ADLs. You must be able to evacuate on your own. With skilled nursing, you need more help than just supervision and ADLs.
But we have clients that go to an assisted living facility and they say, "Oh, they told me I never have to leave. Mom can age in place at this assisted living facility." And then what happens is the parent becomes bedbound, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can stay here," but then what does this facility have them do?
Oh, you can stay here, but you're going to have to hire caregivers to come in. And now you're talking an added fee on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And caregiving, if you get independent caregiving, say if you go through a service, that's $22 to $25 an hour.
Yeah.
And if they're wanting 24-hour care, that's easily $1,500 a week on top of your $5,500 already. So you're already around $7,000. You're over the amount of what you pay for skilled nursing.
Right. Right. So, and that's why just buyer beware, and just when you place somebody, just know wherever they are today may not be their final stop.
Right.
They may have to go to some other facility.
Our goals are always to keep a person there in one place and not move someone from place to place to place. There are some good continuing care retirement communities, I think that's CCRCs. And they have a lot of them together, so they'll have an independent, an assisted living, a memory, and a skilled nursing. The thing you have to be careful about with the CCRCs is that their skilled nursings are usually not Medicaid.
Yeah.
And if they do have Medicaid, it's 4 or 5 beds, slotted for people who've been there since independent living.
Right. And they may not even have those beds. So for those of you who are watching at home, you may have seen our previous Facebook Live presentation. So Medicaid is a payment option to pay for nursing homes, but you have to be in a facility that accepts Medicaid. So sometimes we see clients go through kind of the steps of independent living, assisted living, and then the money runs out, and then we have to do Medicaid in a nursing home.
And I say if you want a good facility, find a good CCRC or a good independent assisted living. That's fine. Keep that in there. But just understand that it's a chance that you're going to have to move to nursing care. And honestly, if we're talking about long-term skilled nursing care, I like regular nursing homes, the ones that are unattached. Usually, the ones that are attached are better at rehab.
Yeah.
Because
that's all they do.
Yeah, because that's what they're geared for, and that's okay. But I want to make sure that if I'm having someone in long-term care, that place is really looking at long-term care. That they have a doctor that comes in who is a geriatric specialist, and they understand the issues that come up. So now the big question is: you're on this tour.
Yeah.
How do you know what to look for when you're on a tour?
Well, I always want to think about the smell, because that's kind of the first thing that people think about. Oh, I don't want to place my loved one and I understand this because we've all been to nursing homes, and the first smell you smell when you walk in is urine. And there's no way.
For a lot of them, for some of them, yes. There are some times where in skilled facilities you have people who just are totally incontinent, and the staff are doing the best that they can, and you're never going to get rid of a smell. So I'm saying if you're going around looking at places, and if you pass by a room
and it smells like urine,
that has a distinct urine smell, but every other room doesn't, I'd say that's going to be patient specific.
Okay.
And that's not they're trying to keep
it's not
it
a
clean.
deal killer. Maybe
No. Really, if the whole facility is clean and you have that room that is bad, then I would say that's a person-centered problem, not a systemic problem for the facility. You want it clean and organized. You want the trash cans emptied. I know this sounds weird, but really, you and I always talk about little things.
Yeah.
If they're paying attention to the little things, they're paying attention to the big things.
Yeah. That's why at our office, if I see a piece of paper on the floor, it makes me crazy.
It's true.
Who put that stapler on the floor? Why is there a spot on the couch?
Always look, see if they're answering the phones.
And that is especially important now. Because that phone may be your lifeline. And we have problems with facilities not returning calls.
Yeah, we do. And because if they're not answering the phones when you're on a tour, they're not going to answer phones when you're away.
That's true.
Especially if you can't visit your loved one, that's something to worry about.
Now, this next point, I think, is so important. If you're on a tour and a resident stops the tour, how does that guide react? Because I think that is, it's really kind of a little snapshot of how they feel about the people that live there.
It's true. And what you want is that tour guide to stop and get that person help.
Yeah.
And they don't have to do it themselves. I just want them to go find somebody.
Acknowledge they're there. Or just give them a hug or say, hey, how are you?
Do they know the residents' names? And of course, you want to find out, like, is it their first day doing the tour?
Right.
Then I'd give them a little gut.
Right.
But my number one rule: always follow your gut.
Yeah, and that's good advice in life too.
Yeah. So if you walk up to a place and you're like, nope,
Yep.
Oh, I think we talked a lot about that.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to take a moment is, when someone's placing their loved one in a facility, they may be signing a bunch of paperwork and a contract. And if you are signing a contract with the facility, here's the lawyerly advice. If you're signing a contract with the facility, be sure you're signing it in the capacity as the financial power of attorney, and hopefully you have financial power of attorney. If you don't have financial power of attorney, then you would say something like, Joe Smith, who's the person going into the facility, by, and then I would say next friend, then put your name. But the best bet is to have that person who's receiving the care sign the contract. That way, if a bill is owed, it's going to be harder for them to come after you. Now, there's some federal protections for family members that if they have signed the contract and there is a bill owed to the facility, and that facility accepts Medicare and Medicaid, there's some federal rules that prohibit the facility from coming back after the family member. But if they don't, and they try to say, well, you had a contractual relationship with us, there was a big bill, now you owe it. I think it's helpful to never sign anything in your individual capacity, and that would go for independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing facility, any kind of contract you're entering in for a facility placement for your loved one.
So one of the hard things to really figure out is when you're going to put your loved one in a facility, and these are just kind of hard and fast rules. These aren't the end all be all of placement times. Really, when you're talking about independent living, it's any time that you're ready to kind of pare down. For assisted living, I'd say it's when it's the time where you're needing a lot more help, that maybe it's not safe for you to stay at home anymore.
Falling a lot, not remembering to take your medications. Or the other thing I think families don't see is, oh, my mom can do all of her activities of daily living. She can bathe or dress herself, but it takes her an hour to do that.
Yeah.
That's not a typical time frame. So that means that person does need help.
Yeah, exactly. And then with memory care, the exit seeking.
Yeah.
Or the wandering or physical.
So I don't know if people know what that means, exit seeking. So that means you're trying to escape.
You're shaking. They're going and shaking the doorknob.
You're wandering.
You're wandering around. You're pacing. You're being found in different places.
Our grandfather was found on the streets of Huntsville. He had dementia. We called it hardening of the arteries, and he was it's such an old-fashioned term. But he was found by that neighbor across the street from us. Paul Hammock found him.
Yeah, he would go outside and sweep, and then take a wrong turn and start wandering around.
Yeah, and I always wanted to know, where was he going? Like he wanted to go somewhere.
He probably thought he wanted to go to work.
He did.
Yeah.
He would get mad. Like if you would try to take a nap during the day, he would get mad at you. Remember I told him that mom was drunk?
Yeah.
So we took care of our grandfather. He worked in construction, and my mom took care of him, and she would come home after a long day after teaching school, and that would irritate him. And so as a way to kind of get him to leave her alone, I would just tell him that she was drunk. And if you know my mom, she doesn't drink alcohol at all.
The one thing I kind of really want to touch on before we kind of wrap up tonight is, in a lot of these places, assisted living and skilled nursing, there's hospice available.
Yeah.
So if it is a thing where you can stay in that place, and it is towards the end of life, to get some good palliative care is looking at hospice to come in.
Yeah, so you can do hospice at home. You can do hospice in assisted living facility, the hospital, and nursing home. And the one little takeaway I'd like the families to know is that if you're receiving hospice benefits under Medicare, number one, Medicare pays for all of your hospice services. It's not going to pay for your room and board if you're in a nursing home. That's still either paid for privately, insurance, or some other payment source. But hospice can provide 24-hour care at either a standalone hospice facility or at home if they believe that death is imminent, which I think is about 2 weeks or so. But clients seem to be hesitant about bringing in hospice services, and we really see families waiting too long. But we've had clients that have been on hospice for like a year or two.
Yeah. You can be on a hospice. You can for an extended amount of time. You can go on and go off of hospice.
Absolutely.
So it's not a lot of times people think it's the final decision because they
Yeah.
do wait for so long.
Yeah.
But it is a good extra service that's out there when we're looking at end of life care.
And I think hospice just does a lot of wonderful things, not only for the person who's receiving the direct care, but also for the family, helping them.
And their hospice workers are all angels.
Oh, they really are. They really are. They're
Yeah.
really amazing people. So,
Should we say hi to some of the people on our?
all right, who do we have here?
David says greetings, and he's not surprised that we already got into the cookies.
Yes.
And then,
Oh, my friend Doll.
yeah, she
Hi,
says
Doll.
thanks. I'm glad you watched, and I hope it is helpful to people out there.
I sure do.
So.
So a couple of little things. We want to announce the winner from our last. Charles Jennings, who's a friend of the firm and a friend of the family, and we just love him. And I don't know if he's on tonight, but he's the winner. He was supposed to win a Gap gift card, but this is a gentleman that I think goes to Whataburger every day, so we might want to see if he wants to exchange it for a Whataburger gift card. But he's a special person to us. And I didn't know, was a poll, can the people who are watching from home tell me, did any kind of poll about pumpkin spice pop up?
I didn't see it.
All right, my husband says no. So, for those of you that are watching from home, I try to do this poll thing, but we like a poll, like you ask questions. You know,
Is that what a poll
like
is?
there could be a poll, like a poll on the ground.
For the record, pumpkin spice is junk.
So the question was: is pumpkin spice delicious or trash? For me, it's trash. But
Trash.
like everyone loves that pumpkin spice.
No.
Although Luke had a friend over this week, Natalia's a mom at the school, and she had chocolate chip cookies with pumpkin spice. And it was really good. It's quite delicious. Okay, so if you are commenting now, we're going to put you in the drawing for our next gift card, which I don't think, what are they saying? No spice.
Nora says yes to Whataburger for Mr. Jennings. Kathy Byer says hi. Hi, Kathy.
So I'm not sure. There'll be a mystery gift card, and we'll take it from anybody that makes a comment. So, and we'll announce that winner October 13th, which will be our next Facebook Live. Robert will not be here because it's his birthday.
No.
And for some reason, he didn't want to hang out with me on his birthday. But I'm still looking for, I'm going to be looking for a co-host, but the topic's going to be self-care. And I have a person in mind, but I'm going to have to get their okay. But
You have to wrangle them first.
I'm going to have to get them to say yes, but I'm pretty sure they're going to say yes. So October 13th, which is a Tuesday, we're going to do it at 8:30, and it's going to be a self-care topic for caregivers. So
And as always, there's no attorney-client relationship, right?
no,
It's only established after fees paid and a contract signed.
Yep.
And if you want to book an appointment with us, please feel free to give me a call or our wonderful office workers.
They're amazing.
We have fantastic Nora, Maite, Maria, and Erica.
I got to see Nora last week. I was so happy. I was reunited.
So give us a call, 713-529-5900.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then, anyways, y'all have a great rest of the night. Thanks for tuning in or watching, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.